Ush. Okay, so welcome back once more to our Benkyo YouTube channel. This week we'll be looking at Rohai Kata. So it's only a small kata, but there's a lot of information in there. Again, Sensei Kerry will be joining us, and Simon might be making a starring role later on. And thank you again to Tanya for helping out with all the camera work and editing. Thank you. I always say it, if your instructor doesn't want you to do it this way, it's not a problem. Please respect them and do it their way. Thank you. Wish.
So if you're watching these video series and enjoying what we do, it's a big help to the channel and the algorithm if you give it a like, certainly a subscribe, and if you've enjoyed it enough, give it a share to anybody else who might enjoy it. Again, it really does help the channel.
Rohai! Okay, you most probably notice that when we start doing the Rohai, we'll be doing some jiu-jitsu based movements. The reason why we're not doing the Zukis and Kerrys at the beginning is basically because we've already covered in Pinan Nidan and Nai Hanch. You'll see the similarities there right at the very beginning. So the other thing as well is I never learned this with Sensei Schmidt's, my past history with Takamezawa Sensei at Temple. And there's some things we go to the right. Yeah, Otsuka, the first Sensei, he went to the right. Otsuka, the second, he goes to the left. I'm not too sure the reason why, but we'll stick with Otsuka the first and also Takamezawa Sensei, the way he taught me. So, yeah, thank you. Okay, so the first move we're looking at is this portion. So, first of all, I'll be going to the side to take Sensei Kerry off center. Then I should be using my chest to pull. Once more. To the side, close my chest. Open my chest and pull back. It's quite interesting how this kata starts. It's here. I'm not sure whether this is the relaxed position. It is definitely for me. But some people start out here, all different places. But if you watch Otsuka, the first sensei, that watch him doing the kata, then it looks like there's a little hint of weapons there, like a tanto. And then later on in the kata, you see him, when he does that double move with the shuto, he does a skip, where he lifts sort of off the floor. So, and if you watch him previously doing sword defense, and when he's moving away, there's a big jump, turn around and down. So that jump, there's a little bit of a hint of a weapon in there somewhere, but just natural. Okay, next portion. So we're here. So our next portion is, again, using my chest and open. So if I get here, concave, now open. Once more. through, and quick. Once more. In, up, up, and chest. So next portion is this. Slowly. If people are concerned about what angle or facing the wrists, I'm not in favour of showing your arteries, so just relaxed. Not here straight, not here flat, but just relax. And funnily enough, it should be about the same angle as the face. So if we let this one go, this one round, down, keep the elbow in and flow it through. The other one, okay, I want to be trying to hit the face, taisho, and elbow. So if you try and do those together, here. Okay, so if we do it again, yeah, slowly, trying to hit and cover, this one coming round. So if we do it quickly, again, try and keep this, it's all very well and good trying to get carried away and hitting the person in the nose. So try and keep it a little bit further away from the face. So, okay, so we are here. 1, 2, 3, 4. One. Pinanidan, but they keep hold of it. So on this one, a couple of options. Yeah. Or underneath, pull. One, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5. 1, 2, 3, grab. Underneath, kakayuke. If you want to, grab, and nanamezuki. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The next part of the kata I've seen done 2 ways. One with this part being shown. When I learnt it with Kamizawa Sensei, he didn't have that. It was basically you stepped across and you was doing the arm pull back, and then as you touched, you did the 2 zukis. So, yeah. Personally, I prefer the going across, pulling the arms in as soon as you touch the floor, 2 zukis. But there's the option there for you. So once more, you go across and pull, and 1, 2. Or pull across, touch, 1, 2. So there's a couple of ways that you can practice, whether that's practice for in the dojo or whether you're doing competition or whether it's your grading. Then this move. 1, 2, 3. So the way that it was shown me was to basically to exaggerate the target, to tempt the people in. So cover, take, show the target, and then pinanidan with the junzuki. Or as soon as you lift, turn and drop. So it's one complete move to the end. Yeah, with this one, where you show, at least you can practice your drop with the pinanidan. Yeah, this one, cleaner, more natural. But there's 2 ways there you can practice. Wish. Okay, so next portion is 1, 2, 3, 4. From there, it's right, left. Wish. 1, 2. 1, 2. Ah! I want you to be very careful because this, many years ago, is where I damaged the inside of my knee. And every now and again it reoccurs. And the reason why it happened was many years ago, we either trained on a floor like this or a competition on a floor like this. And then we went to mats. And they weren't like they are today where they're sort of dovetailed together so they can't part. After days of fighting, then the gaps in the mats would get bigger and bigger. So I pushed in for a gakuzuki and my foot dropped down into one of these cracks and it just extended my knee. So that was quite painful. And then at the same competition, my go-to technique was basically to take the front foot and punch. But I'd wait until he got his foot slightly off the floor before I did it, so that it hadn't quite got his foot on the floor. This time, I mistimed it. He got his foot right on the floor. He just landed, and I went to take. And because of the friction and the weight on the front foot, again, it was the last straw. Yeah, and it damaged. So I do not want you to damage yourself while you're practicing this technique. In fact, the way to practice it is, we have a portion called Nihon Committees, and we do, Sensei, this way. Fight instance there. So we do a maigeri, and we hook. We drag it along, and then just as they land you take the foot. Again. So again, the foot is not actually on the floor. It's just kamishitai, just rice paper thickness. So you hook, let it drop, and then you take it. And obviously there's a gakuzuki in there. So that's a good way of practicing this next technique without you actually getting hurt or your partner getting hurt. So please pay attention to that. I don't want you to have the same injury as myself. Okay, wish. So the next portion is here. 1, 2, and 3. We're not going to demonstrate it today because we've already covered that in Basai. And there should be a link on the video to take you to Basai later. 1. So next portion. 1 and 2, 3. Adjust the foot. So that's the portion that we'll be doing Take your time with your partner, but you can either jump and twist, yeah, up and through, or 1, 2, 3. The latter is the safest. You're not twisting your knees, you're not going to twist your ankle, especially if you're on a matted area. So, if we just take it slow, from here, cover, through, cover, strike, and back, and up. Shall I go a little bit quicker? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to this section of the Rohai Kata. As we normally do, we'll have a look at the history of the kata, find out a little bit more about it. The name Matsumura will appear again, but maybe not the one you're thinking of. And then we'll look at the key points. The first key point I'd like to have a look at is mai. Generally described as distance, but if you dig into it, there's a lot more to it than just distance. So we'll try and flesh that out a little bit, and we'll feed that back into a demonstration during the kata. The second key point is gamaku. These are Okinawan terms, and they don't directly translate into the Japanese equivalent. There's generally a little bit more to them. But gamaku generally relates to the centre of the body. The next key point is chinkachi. And again, chinkachi, there is a Japanese sort of equivalent, but as per usual, there's a little bit more to chinkachi than meets the eye. And the final one is moshimi, named after a sticky, heavy, dense rice cake, and it's a general feeling of heavy body that's used a lot in Okinawan style punching. And as this is a very Okinawan style kata, this is a good place to fit it into the series. So the history of Rohai. The name Matsumura appears again, but whereas previously in Shinto, Basai, Koshanku, it was Sokon Matsumura. This is another famous Okinawan master called Kosaku Matsumura. In my research, I haven't been able to find any information whether the two Matsumuras were related. It doesn't appear so, it's not mentioned. But they both were hugely influential and both taught Itosu and Chokimotobu. So a lot of the information we've been sharing coming from Motobu and Itosu came from two masters named Matsumura. And it was the second Matsumura who made sort of Rohai popular in Okinawa. The name sort of gives away its origin. It can mean the image or the picture of a crane, and that goes back to his southern Chinese white crane roots. And these one-legged positions like you get in Shinto or where we get in Rohai come from white crane. But the white crane isn't native to Okinawa. So in Okinawa, it's referred to the picture or the image of a heron, because the heron is native to Okinawa and they're very similar in appearance and characteristics. So if somebody's explaining the name, if they use a crane, then it's more Chinese. If it's a heron, it's more Okinawan. There are also 3 Rohais. Wado does Shodan, but there is also a Nidan and a Sandan. But Atsuka Sensei, the first, decided he didn't want to use the second and third one. And that's the same in Naihanshi. There are 3 Naihanshis, but Atsuka the first only decided to do Shodan. He said in Naihanshi, the second and third katas were almost useless. Now, whether he thought they were bad katas or whether he thought that the techniques in them were covered in the first one and other katas, I don't know. But he made the same decision with Rohai. And the version we do in Wado is almost identical to the Shito-ryu version of Shodan. So you can assume that he learnt that from Kenwa Mabuni, who created Shito-ryu. So again, another kata with a big history, interesting links back to southern China. And again, one of a series, but in Wado we only use one of them. So key point number 1, mai. If you see it written down, it's M-A-A-I, so it's actually 2 words. The ma relates to, very loosely, distance, but it's also the time that's implied with those distances. The second part, the I, is the same as in Aikido, and it means to blend or to harmonise with. And once you start to blend and harmonise with your partner, it changes the nature of the techniques. So if we look at the first part, mai, there's like the Goldilocks and the 3 bears, where the one porridge is too hot, the other's too cold, and the other's is just right. So if Simon's done a punch, this is too far away to be practically useful. This would be too close. This would be just right. So setting up the correct distance for a technique is part of mai, and it's the one that's generally discussed the most. When you see beginners and they're learning and they start doing this because they haven't found this sweet spot where they can perform the blocking technique and make the punch. So that's like a good depth of understanding to be able to make gi contact but not hurt your opponent. What I never really understood about the partner work, how it's performed, until we started doing this video series. And it really encapsulates everything about mai in what looks like a very formal setting. So we start here. This is a safe distance. Neither of us can reach each other without making some sort of pushing action. So from the start, it's teaching you about safe distancing. Once we start to look at distancing, kicking distance is obviously further away than punching distance. So punching distance, we have to come in close. If we're coming in to grapple, we're closer still. So there are elements of distance, and your partner work, these are the things you need to be looking for. Because when you partner up, if I'm going to make the attack, there's no point me punching here, too far away. I have to be able to push in so my strike will land. That then gives my partner a chance to defend and find these Goldilocks just right distance. But it's also an implication, and it's not discussed so much, is time. If I'm going to do a kick and it's got to cover distance, it's going to take longer for that to reach than for that to reach, and certainly in close. So there is a time element. So when you're doing your partner work, you're running these sort of complicated calculations of what's the distance, what's the time involved. If it's a kicking attack, you've probably got more time than if it's a punching attack. So your mind, through the years of training with an opponent, allows you to do these calculations very quickly, and you can measure up different sizes of people and limb length and be able to perform your partner work accurately and quickly straight away. But the second part, the I, the blending, this is a little bit more Wado specific, if you like. I'm led to believe that Asuka Sensei, he trained with Yoshiba, who created Aikido. And there's certainly sort of elements of that type of thing. So if Simon steps in with a right roundhouse punch, if we do it as a typical sort of karate style technique, we would block and then punch. Very linear. But if we think of it as I and harmonising, as he comes in with his circular attack, we also make a circular defence. So rather than being linear to him, we're blending and harmonising with him. If he does a Junzuki Chudan, we can do classic karate, or we can blend and then harmonise with him. So if you think about it as the two different disciplines, distance, timing, the time interval for attacks, but then also think of it as I, which is the harmonising and the blending, then you can very quickly start to understand some of the more subtle information that's been imparted in your partner work. So the next key point is gamaku, and again it's in Japanese a sort of bad translation of the word koshi, which is generally translated from Japanese as hip, but koshi tends to refer more to the small of the back, round to the iliac crest of the hips, and then you get into the hara and the tanden. Gamaku is the centre of the body, but it's also the internal muscles. So you've got the external obliques, but you've also got the internal oblique muscles. And most importantly is the psoas muscles. It's the only muscles that connect upper and lower body, connects from the lower spine down to the thigh bones. And in these close quarters, short range, like 1 inch punch type techniques, it's the psoas that's doing the work for you. If you're one of the 40% of the world that's lucky enough to have the 2 psoas muscles, 60% of the world doesn't, they only have the psoas major. 40% of the world also have psoas minor. But these are the muscles for these type of techniques you really need to start getting engaged. I had to go to the physio a couple of weeks ago, and part of the problem was the psoas on my left-hand side had gone to sleep. And it does on a lot of people. They regularly just go to sleep, and you have to have them re-engaged. So very useful if you're going to do a kicking technique, if you can contract the psoas, that is the start of the kick. And I knew there was something up because I could do it on the one side, and when I come to do the other side, it was like, come on. So I had to go and have the muscle switch back on. So if you start to play around with internals, being able to control your psoas muscles individually is a big part of that. And that's a big part of gamaku. So it's the obliques, the internal obliques, and the psoas. And again, it partners up with Chinkachi as in relating to posture. You know, you're never going to be able to sort of do fast, effective kicks if you're sort of slumped. You know, you're trying to fight gravity. But if you can maintain good posture and then start contracting these muscles, you can fire your techniques out. So these are big points in Okinawan style karate, and there's certainly close range fighting. Chinkachi. It's not quite the same as kime. Kime tends to be, as you hit, you compress the back muscles and tense, and it's an inward feeling. Chinkachi is more an outward. A good description is like when you sneeze, you know, you sort of build up and then you sneeze and out it comes. Chinkachi has got that same sort of feeling. And it's more specific in the framework of the body and the muscles that are used. It's difficult to achieve Chinkachi if your posture is bad. You need to have the head going away, the pelvis dropped, internal muscle usage. So it's a little bit like kime, but more of it and more specific about the body usage. But it's very important in Okinawan style techniques, and especially when you get up close in close fighting. You haven't got the room in some of these katas and the applications to make big movements. You know, you can't sort of push and bring the back foot in and use big body movements. Everything has to be closer, much closer. So Chinkachi is very important in that, that you can utilise all of your body into the smallest possible movement. The 1-inch punch is the perfect illustration of Chinkachi, you know, boom. That is Chinkachi. You've used the whole body, you've harnessed everything from the floor upwards and put it into the smallest possible space. So it's a little bit like Kime, but there's more to it. So the final key point is Mochimi, and it's named after mochi, a very sticky, heavy, dense rice cake. And what they're trying to say is that your punches should be sticky, heavy and dense. They're not like competition techniques where it's fast and flighty. It's a big, heavy, solid impact. I meant to bring a punching pad and forgot, so Simon's very kindly volunteered to be the punching pad. But heavy hands, heavy body, and it's this connectivity of Chinkachi and Gamaku, and so there's no, for the purposes of safety, there was no speed involved. That was just the sort of heaviness. But if you add the speed of a normal punch, but with that heaviness, it becomes extremely powerful and extremely dangerous. We tried it a little bit earlier, we'll see if we can do it again. You can sort of actually doing it standing on one leg. As long as you've got the connectivity within the body and everything's engaged, then you can achieve great power even standing on one leg. But the other meaning of Mochimi, as well as this heavy, sticky, striking feeling, is sticking to your opponent. So once you've got hold of them, you stick to them like glue. You don't give them any room to move, you don't give them any room to breathe. And I think the first part of the kata is an excellent indication of that. So if we look at what we described earlier as blending with the opponent. So if the attack comes in, we blend with them. Take control, strike. Take control, nukete. Grab, tetsui. Take control again. Punch, take control. Take him down. Punch. So these are, I think it was Anko Itosu who says that karate and katas were never designed for what he called dueling. That was his interpretation of competition. It's meant for in-close, nasty self-protection. You know, back in the day in Okinawa, with no street lights, no police forces. So if somebody attacked you in the darkness of night, you know, they could probably murder you and be gone and never be caught. So these katas and these techniques were designed for horrible, up-close, dirty, nasty fighting. And I think that first section is an excellent indication of that.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about this move. So finding a way of making the move easier and safer by doing this move, this Taisabaki move. Yeah, and understanding why, possibly why the arm comes up. It's not a pose, it's the result of a move. So if I can ask Sensei Kerry to come on. So that leg forward, and so Kerry's going to do Gakuzuki. Yeah, and you turn to cover. And the more relaxed this arm is, and the more you do Hikitai, he pulls back. But because you have a ball and socket joint here, as it goes back, it rotates. So this indicates how relaxed you are. So it's a safer way of practicing this move. So instead of using the Kerry, you're using Gakuzuki. And you can get this feeling of your hip moving. The other thing is, it looks very similar to Shinto. But Shinto happens at the same time. This move is because you've hooked the leg comes up later, just fractionally later. So it's not the same as Shinto. Moving your foot out. Yeah, it's actually just 1 and 2, just slightly after the move. So when you're practicing with your partners, then make sure you do your nagash. Right. So as a conclusion, Rohai. First of all, when we looked at including Rohai in this series, I thought it'd be over in 5 minutes because it's such a small kata. But once you start investigating the kata becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. So the actual rationale behind it is concentrated into such a small kata, but what lies behind it is phenomenal. So smaller is better. So hope you enjoy Rohai. Thank you. Aish.